Going back to a day when games mattered, when stories mattered, no saving the world for personal reasons. Uh, it's one of those games that it it was a testament for its time. It said what it needed to be said. It did what it needs to do. It it was a light in the dark of gaming, and there was a dark in gaming. There was moments where I thought there was no reprieve. I thought I wouldn't see a game like this for a long time, and it's not the best of the best. This is Near Automata. It it speaks to me in ways that I haven't seen in gaming for a long, long time. And honestly, it stands on its own, even though it's part of the Drinking Guard series. It it lends to devices that you wouldn't expect the game to do. It keeps things in position that it's poignant. It has points that the story goes up, down, left, right, and you're still following bated breath, and it it leads to deeper meanings. It leads to deeper understandings of the human psyche. There's movies like Blade Runner. There's movies like Ghost in the Shell. They all play with these ideas of the essence of being, the inner turmoil of self. Whether it's an existential crisis of a robot, but you can relate to it, and I feel sorry if you can, but you can. You can relate to it in so many ways. I mean, this is one of those stories that it needed to be told for its time, and it it was done so in gaming, and it was done so well. I mean, I love the artwork. I love the design of the characters. Maybe I have a thing for Akihiko Yoshida because he knows how to do characters really well. I loved him in Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age. I loved him in Final Fantasy Tactics. I loved him in Vagrant Story. I believe he did Tactics Ogre also. He knows how to draw. I'm sorry, I'm an artist myself, but I love art that speaks to me in so many different ways. And the fact that he did Nier Automata in such a way that I feel like I feel like it did justice to the characters. It did justice to everything. I mean, the story had multiple angles and really aren't done in gaming. I remember Chrono Cross did something similar with the Link's character, but this was something that they had A2, 9S, 2B, all from different angles, and 9S was a little excessive, but even you can understand his character, you can understand where he's coming from, you can understand why this character went down this road, you can understand even A2's point of view, why she doesn't necessarily need to be put in this predicament, but she is. And there's a lot of characters that were off the beaten path that were in the background, like certain characters that were other, I believe, Yorha units that you had to track down and kill, and there was some of them that begged for their lives. There was a lot of them that begged for their lives. If you remember well in the storyline, if I remember well in the storyline, there was robots begging for their lives. There was enemies. Even the enemies weren't really enemies. You were kind of the bad guy, and it was put in such a perspective that you weren't sure you're up from your down, you're left from your right, and it did such a good job in promoting these storylines and these characters and bringing them to life. I felt bad for 9S, and I remember originally hating 9S, and after playing it long enough, I realized that I feel for 9S, and that the fact that 2B kept killing him and killing him and killing him, I mean, I thought there was a theory that was underlined that many people didn't know, but apparently it's common knowledge. But 2B was sent to hunt down 9S, and every time he had a glimpse at finding out the truth of the Yorha units, 2B killed him. Sorry, spoilers. I should have said that to begin with, but you're watching a game review, so it's full of spoilers. But honestly, 9S 9S didn't deserve some of the things that happened to him, but it happened, and it's one of those things that you can't prevent the way the storyline progressed. Anyway, I'm rambling. The combat feels right. The combat feels excellent. These are the guys that did Metal Gear Rising. These are old Devil May Cry devs. Um, the story parts, this and that. It had elements from everything, a little bit of everything. Like I said, Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell. Mostly cyberpunk culture in general, and I'm looking forward to them diving more into this type of storytelling in Cyberpunk 2077, even though they might avoid it altogether. But I hope that they do produce something similar. But Nier Automata did such a good job in storytelling and weighing gameplay with storytelling, and uh, I don't know, the inner turmoil of being bereft of purpose, all these things of how you would coincide your thought process if you were in these positions, if you realize you had no hope, if you realize things just didn't end well for everyone, and honestly, it doesn't end well for everyone, and I don't know how to put it, but it's not a happy ending, it's not a sad ending, it's an ending, and this is what I needed from a game like this. This is what I needed for a story to be told like this. Honestly, I don't know how any other game could tell a story better in this regard. The music stands as its own as a testament to Platinum. Their music is by far some of the best, as you heard from the beginning of this video. By far some of the best stuff I've heard in a long, long, long time. Even though they've used similar music in Drakengard, and they've told the story with Drakengard in such a good way. But the music, honestly, a lot of it's repetitive. A lot of it's speaks in versions of a tune that's been played out to death. But a lot of it just coincides with the characters and the storytelling and how the enemies come up, and like there's a story called there's a song something about in gods, or I think you know what I'm talking about if you play the game. um we are gods or something like that, and it was so done so well in the storyline that it it furthered it, and it played so well with what was going on at the moment, and it dove into those characters. Platinum has such a track record with stories like these and games like these, and Astral Chain is the newest one coming out, and I really hope they knock it out of the park with that one. But this is what I mean. Like, I've been dying for games like these, and Metal Gear Rising filled that void. The old Devil May Cry devs that helped create these games filled this void so well, and I don't know what to say. It's like I wanted. This is what I want from Devil May Cry. This is what I got from Metal Gear Rising. I want games that evolve while you play, and continue to grow and continue to elaborate your characters and everything. And um, I mean, as for the music, Drakengard had great music. Not so much in the gameplay department. I mean, it's the Drakengard games wasn't platinum, and I feel. I mean, I don't think it was platinum. I'm not sure, but uh, it had this one sentiment where the perviness is a staple to the series, although not forgivable, and it's one of those things where they even have an achievement for looking up to be skirt a couple of times, and it's I don't know if it's a Japanese thing. I don't. It could very well be um, where it came from, or a creature of its own genre, I guess. But it's very much an anime type game. It's very much a pervy game in many respects. In fact, you get lingerie armor for the ending. Spoilers again, but it's. And speaking of the end game content is some of the best. Like, they have bosses that really try your skill and try you to the point that the optional bosses, like any Square Enix game or any RPG lately, after you beat the game a couple of times. The optional bosses are the hardest thing that you have to face in the game. I mean, it's a little unfair that you can reach level 99 and some enemies are level 120, but it helps you get better and it helps you think of ways around situations. Like there were certain bosses in the early game that were really hard, and you're like, oh well, let me max out my level and I'll be able to play it better, or find a way around it, or level up um, my armor units and try to find ways around this. But in the ending, when you're level 99, they're 120. There's not much of a choice in what you can do. Um, was this game robbed of Game of the Year? I don't know. I mean, the games that came out during the time, I believe Zelda, Breath of the Wild came out, and I do love this game as much as I possibly can any game under this genre, but um, it's it's not up there with Zelda Breath of the Wild. I played Zelda Breath of the Wild. I liked it. I haven't beat it. I anyway. Nier Automata. It's it did deserve to be Game of the Year in so many respects. Some people did give it Game of the Year, but honestly, it's one of those games that pushes its boundaries and pushes its limits of its genre, and I feel like it got its due. It did a good job. It knocked it out of the park. It did what it had to do, and this is one of the games that you needed to do that. You needed to be that character. It's like the cool guy in the room that's quiet, says what he needs to say, and leaves. That's what this was. It just did what it needed to do and it left, and I love it for it. The endings were a little much. I don't know why they had so many endings. They had 26 endings, one for every letter of the alphabet. There was even an ending where you had to get help from other players, and you would delete their saves if you lost one of their ships, I believe, and that's infuriating. I can't imagine doing that or losing a save like that. I mean, you could always back it up on a USB or something, but still, regardless, it sucks. And I guess it lends itself to the type of game it is. It has very Souls-like features. I forgot to mention the Souls-like features where your body dies and you leave behind your units. But still, it lends itself to a lot of different genres. Is the point I'm trying to make, and it does it, and it complements the genres in so many ways. And I feel like this is what it needs to do in order to succeed. And man, I love A2. I mean, as for characters that go well above and beyond what they need to do, I love A2 talking trash to her pod. I love how she did what she had to do to save 2B and 9S. She, technically, 2B is still alive inside her, or still apparent inside her, but there's a lot of things that went on in the storyline that I would say it was difficult. It was a difficult game, and I loved A2 as a character. I loved 9S as a character. I loved 2B. I even loved Adam and Eve, I believe it was. Adam and I forgot what the guy's name was. But anyway, I love the two brothers. They did a really good job, and they lent to the fact that you are not exactly the best hero or the best person to be the hero in the storyline, and your characters are leading the way into the story in such a way that they did what they needed to do. 9S technically should have been the hero, but he wasn't the hero. At A2, and I mean, it depends how you beat the game. There's many different endings, but I feel like 9S was my favorite. I mean, A2 was my favorite ending. At A2's storyline saved what I needed to be saved in this game and led what I needed to be led to this game. And this is the game that I wanted to play. And this is the game that I got. I don't know what to say. Here's to you.
I never quite realized how beautiful this world is. I'm coming, everyone. I'm coming.